figure it out.
It finally showed up, I think,
But he had a track meet on, was it Wednesday?
Okay, I'll look at it.
And I'm wondering if maybe that was something, he might have picked something up there because there's just so many kids and they're all on top of each other and,
Yep.
you know, and they're all drinking out of the same, you know, it's just gross.
My kid was naughty too, so I'm thinking
It's
of
nice
that.
day.
Started it with me.
Good.
Yeah.
They kicked it back down,
Thanks.
kind of, sort of.
Yeah, I could think that junior high for all that.
Okay. Clock on the wall, it's 5 o'clock. On the computer, it's 5:59.
Job of turning the clocks.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's call this meeting to order. Please stand for the invocation.
Let us pray. Holy Father, we lift up our praise to you as we meet here tonight. We pray that our actions will reflect your desires for our community. Please surround us with your love and grace. Grant us wisdom and discernment and protect us all. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the United States of America
And
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor to Texas flag, pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. I almost forgot. Okay, Chief, could you check, see if we got any public comments? Thank you, sir. Okay, Mr. Page.
Since I'm not gonna, my work schedule very rarely laps over the city council. I definitely won't be here before June. I just wanted to come in. Mayor, say I've got sad to hear that you weren't running for re-election.
Yeah.
Most of us that know the city, by the way, you probably recognize my name, but
Yes,
not my
sir.
face. I think under your, a lot of calm and cool, considering I'm not gonna mention some of the bad stuff that's going on right now. Hopefully that's not one of the reasons you're not running.
No, sure it's not.
I just wanted to wish that, and also, while I'm here, won't get a chance, I'd like to give kudos. I'd like to appreciate our current chief of police. For those of us that have been living in this area for in my case, except for the first 6 years of my life, so over 50 years. I remember the days when Richwood, Texas was remembered by locals as the most corrupt town and worst police department in town. You know, you had 5 officers, 100% of their time were spent out on 288 giving out tickets for people going 2 or 3 miles over the speed limit. Well, I have to say, and I think it may have a lot to do also with our current city manager, but I'm happy to see last 10 years or so since or almost as long as I've lived here, is the current police chief is one I've actually seen the police out there doing properly. I just wanted, since I won't be able to speak before you retire,
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to get that in.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate it.
I would say yes, but you want to speak on the agenda item?
Okay. All right. Appreciate everybody that's come out tonight. We are kind of lean tonight. Let the record reflect that Council Members Johnson and Councilmember Yarborough are not here. But all of the rest are here. So, first off, we are going to do a proclamation. We will read this proclamation for the month of April as Fair Housing Month. Whereas the Department of Housing and Urban Development has initiated the sponsorship of activities during the month of April of each year designed to reinforce the department's commitment to the concept of fair housing and equal opportunity, and whereas the City of Richwood affirmatively supports the efforts of the federal government and the state of Texas to assure equal access to all Americans to rental housing and home ownership opportunities, and whereas the City of Richwood welcomes the opportunity to reaffirm its commitment to provide the equal access to housing to all of its residents without regard to race, color, religion, sex, including gender identity and sexual orientation, disability, familial status, national origin, or source of income, and whereas the City of Richwood affirmatively supports programs that will educate the public concerning their rights to equal housing opportunities and to participate in the efforts with each other organizations to assure every person their right to fair housing. And whereas the City of Richwood is honored to join the federal government, the state of Texas, and local jurisdictions across America in celebrating the rich diversity of our people and the right of all citizens to live where they choose without fear of discrimination. Now, therefore, we, the City of Richwood, do hereby proclaim April as the month to celebrate and honor all efforts which guarantee the right to live free of discriminatory housing practices, and proclaim this month as the Fair Housing Month. Alrighty, and next on the agenda we have a service award for Juan Rivera. He's not here tonight, Cliff?
He's not here. I invited him.
Okay.
He's actually working over.
For 5 years of dedicated, and it is dedicated service. Please let him know that we do appreciate the hard work that he does for the city, and I know you appreciate him keeping you out of trouble.
He tries his best.
But no, he does an excellent job, and he's a good representative for the city of Richwood. He represents us well with the public. So, Juan, thank you very much for your 5 years, and we look forward to seeing you here many more.
Clip can go.
Okay.
Throw that.
Next is the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes from regular meeting held February 13th, 2023. Approval of minutes from special meeting held February 23, 2023. February 2023 financial budget and report for fiscal year 2023. Approve the police department's racial profiling report for 2023. Do we have any discussion or motions?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. Let the record reflect that Councilmember Strawn has made the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, seconded by Councilmember Escalante. Councilmember Strawn, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
And Councilmember Fountain, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion is carried. Okay, item B. Discuss and consider adoption of ordinance 23-505, amending Appendix C, the fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances to add rental fee and remove deposit fee for the James Vera baseball field and soccer fields. Oops, did I miss something? Yes, I did. Sorry about that. Discuss and consider, you got to keep me in line, girl. Discuss and consider adopting ordinance 23-503, amending Chapter 15, Article 2, Section 27 of the City of Richwood Code of Ordinances for the purpose of amending membership guidelines of the Planning and Zoning Commission. Okay, discussion. If everyone remembers, we discussed this at the last regular meeting, I believe, and it was tabled until this meeting. We removed the part that was in the agenda, or wishing to remove the part in the agenda, or in the ordinance that says, and shall not hold any other positions in the city government. That would give us, this would give us the ability to let other folks and other committees join that committee. So any discussion or any motions?
I think that what we discussed was adding the shall not hold any other position, elected position in the city of government, I recall.
Or hired, employed, because any other position in city government,
It's a pretty vague.
yeah, it's very vague. And then also, I did have another question. If we were going to change anything, we might want to look at C, which is vacancies, and it says, if there shall be a repeated lack of quorum or shortage of volunteers to serve on the commission, city council may serve as a planning commission. I wanted to clarify what repeated lack of quorum is, because since these are time-sensitive situations, repeated, is that once, is that twice, is that 4 times, at what point? Because, there are times when people are waiting on planning and zoning to go through, and if we're going to,
That would be up to y'all.
yeah, I was going to say that's something that we need, if we're going to change one, we really need to change both, because that could potentially put projects back and then make us fall behind schedule.
The terms regarding elected officials, that didn't get added for this presentation because council didn't vote on that to be added.
Right.
So whatever y'all would like to see added, we can discuss an emotion and then go from there, however y'all would like to see it presented.
I'm just concerned because,
Yeah, I understand you, on the
right.
planning and zoning, I would say something like, in the event that it does not meet, it will be addressed at the next council meeting, or something along those lines.
Well, what's the legal definition of repeated?
Right, that was my concern. Is it 2, 4?
Is it 2 times, three consecutive times, 4 consecutive times? I mean, that's. I think we need to put a finite, a quantitative number in there to say if 3 quorums are missed, then proceed. If 2 quorums are missed, hey, strike 2. Strike 3 is. But just saying repeated leaves a very vague term of, if I was waiting for planning and zoning and they missed the first one, I would, or the second one, I would say, well, that's repeated.
I think I would probably interpret it as 2 or more, probably.
So on the third would be.
Yeah.
But then you keep pushing these back, and then you're running yourself into a situation where, what do we have, 60 days to?
Yeah, and just to be clear, this agenda item was just to address section 27. We're now discussing section 28. So if we wanted to address a different section of the code, we would need to bring it back.
Yeah, because this one makes me nervous changing.
If we're changing the whole organization of the board,
right,
then this is a completely different agenda topic at this point.
Yeah, I just don't want to put us into a situation where we end up having to spend more money because we have to repost it. And
I'm given 60 days, so if a quorum can't be reached within 60 days, council would have to step in and take action. Yeah. So there's another part of the code that would prevent anybody's replat from not, because I'm bound by a different law in the city to get this passed. So if a quorum can't be reached, then it would default to council to get it passed. It would then pass it, because you'll have to finalize it either way. Right. Either way, it comes to council. The planning and zoning is just a preliminary advising board. They just give their opinions, and council then has the option to do it or don't. So if a quorum can't be reached, it'll skip planning and zoning because I have to get an answer within 60 days. It'll go straight to council, and you make the decision either way. This was just a request of residents to want to be able to serve on multiple boards. State law prohibits elected officials from serving on any planning or any commission. That's that dual appointment. Y'all cannot self-appoint yourselves to a board. So I think it's redundant to add you can't be an elected official on this into this ordinance because state law already prohibits it. I think there's another way to make sure that no one's replat gets held up, and you would be the ones to decide if we've had too much quorum missed or.
Well, but then you run into problems like this where you don't wanna upset people by taking it from them.
Right.
You've given it to them, you don't wanna
Understand,
take it,
yeah.
and, and especially if there's reasons, you get
Yeah.
into a situation where you're
Well, I mean,
causing more problems than you're fixing
Yeah.
by letting, because
I think council would just act in that instance.
Yeah.
It wouldn't been like disband the board. It would just be that instance. I have so many days to get an answer. So it wouldn't make the board like dissolve.
Right.
It would just be on this specific property owner's issue. We would then have to skip P and Z and take it straight to council.
So the main thing on this section, section 15-27, is that we would like to allow volunteers to serve on multiple boards. And then we can go back in section 1528 and say, in the event that an issue or a board is unable to meet, it will then go on the agenda item.
You mean make change today and then review the second section at another
I
meeting?
think if you're gonna do
Yeah.
it, you probably should do it all at once, so that there's
Well, yeah,
no
but-
gap in the.
Which is fine. I just want to make sure I understand that section 28 deals with, I guess,
Right.
The
Yeah.
item
if you-
C, vacancies on how they would be handled.
okay.
If I may, why don't you take the suggested verbiage that's been given, go ahead and we will, and then look at the revisions, or we can look at the revision next month and approve all of it at one time.
And I agree, it's redundancy, right? It's already state law about the dual, but we know that now. In 10 years, we're probably nobody's gonna be the same people here. So I think just adding clarity for future interpretation helps clear any confusion. We've seen that time and time again on ordinances that we've had to update in the past because they're very vague. And I think the more clarity that we can add to it, I don't see a problem with it. I'm reminded 50 times driving down 288 that the speed limit is a certain, I know it's that speed limit, and they remind me over and over that that's the speed limit.
I understand.
Just-
State law just changes every 2 years, so we wanted to, if we wanted that to be council's opinion, is that you can't, and not just because it's state law, then that's fine, I understand.
And
What if we added like in accordance with it?
But if we're just putting it in there because it's state law, that's what part of my legal review that I'm having to do right now is to remove a lot of state laws that were put into code, that we're now having to pay to have them removed, because of so much redundancy. That's just that's the only reason I brought it up.
So I make a motion to table consent agenda, or the ordinance 23504, chapter 15, article 2, section 27, for a later date to add the verbiage of elected positions in city government, and then further to add the ordinance 23504, chapter 15, article 2, section 28, defining the repeated definition of municipal.
You good with bringing it back next meeting?
Yes, sir.
We'll have it ready.
Yeah,
okay.
adding that other section.
So we have Councilmember Escalante making a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll say.
You're gonna have a public discussion on this one before y'all vote.
After there's a second, and there'll be discussion.
Yes.
I'll
Okay,
say.
we have a second. Mr. Page, you wish to speak on the subject?
From here, did y'all say this is just to get in line with, state law, or was this due to?
Of why it's brought up in the first place?
Yeah.
It's, during charter review, it was brought up that this was the only board and commission that we currently have that prohibits any other committee member, a KRB member, charter review, CCPD member from serving on this board.
The reason I think y'all should reconsider that, totally doing away with this restriction is because I have in situations where this committee, this was a little bit different because y'all actually go with volunteers. In most, a lot of councils, what you have is you normally have like 5 members and a mayor. Each person will appoint a person to a committee, including one representing the mayor. Well, what you have, you could have a situation here where you allow, totally do away with it and not limit any. Let me give you an example. Let's say this town has kind of gotten larger. Say in the future you come up with a situation where you've got 5 members that somehow get elected and they're from the same neighborhood or like-minded, but you have 1 member. If you allow, say you have 6 committees, and you have those same 6 people serving on every committee, you really have a situation where you have a member, you may have, the mayor may be the only person that's truly citywide elected. There is no voice of the city. And you get, well, I'm not gonna, but we know what's going on in the city right now, where it's possibly headed, where and eventually that might be the situation where same-sex people, I think you should allow people to serve on multiple, especially when a committee is as important as the one we're discussing.
Yes.
They should be limited to like 1 or 2, at the most 3 committees for any one person. So.
That's a good thought. Thank you, sir.
But each of the committees are volunteer-based.
Well,
Nobody is appointed, and every citizen in this community is afforded the same opportunity to volunteer for these boards. But with each of the boards, you have the same group of people willing to volunteer. So I don't understand how it can be a monopoly when everybody has the same opportunity. They're not appointing anybody to these commissions.
And I guess that's my second point is.
So if people want to be more involved, then they should be more involved.
This is a very rare situation in here to where it's only volunteer based. It may not be at this point because I know the people,
Well, just
the
to,
people that we're talking about.
just to clarify this a little bit, as of right now, if I had 6 people come that are currently not on a board, I would present them all to council and then they would be planning. So if I could get 6 people to do this, I would love that. That's the problem, is I have 6 people that want to do it, but they're currently serve on other boards.
But I've also seen this happening on another city where I've seen it, to where the city manager and some of the city employees literally got involved in city politics.
No, I understand.
And if we start allowing, I hate to say this because I think they have the same opportunity, they live in this city. But I hate to say this, but you get a situation where, I don't want to go too long, but let me give you a situation where you have like this very committee, you have a unscrupulous contractor and somebody on the city, to where there's a contract that's the lowest bid. But the reason it's the lowest bid is because basically they bid it with the wrong material. Without that zoning commission that's, well, this one isn't zoning commission, but without a group that's actually truly got the city's interest in heart and discussed it, you might end up in a situation where it's kind of a small print, and by the time the city council members themselves realize the reason for that lowest bid, it's too late. Not only did you not save the city money, you're now going to cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars more on that same bid.
It definitely could happen, and it's good to think about it. One thing that I can say, out of most of the people that I know that have been volunteering in the city, you look at them and they're the ones that's here, and they do have the citizens.
I guess my point on this, right now it's in a good situation, and I do agree with those people that are volunteering.
Right.
But we need to think about long term.
Yes, long term.
For the city. We're not thinking about just right now. I agree there are 6 good people in this town.
Yeah.
That I would be perfectly willing for those to serve on every committee.
And one good thing about it
Send
is,
them this way, because I need some applications.
one good thing about it is these are subject to change. They're not written in stone, and they are dynamic. They can be changed as necessary. And again, I know kind of where you're talking about, and yes, there's been those kind of issues, and definitely as far as Richwood, we do our best to make sure that we've got good folks here and make sure that we look out for the citizens.
Anybody, like I said, that's been in this area for 40+ years knows what the city of Richwood was like in the 80s and early 90s, and we do not want to go anywhere near that ever again.
Well, thank you, sir. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to table this. Councilmember Strawn, do you have,
Aye.
Okay, Councilmember Escalante? Aye. And Councilmember Fountain?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion is carried. Okay, now, discussion, consider adoption of ordinance 43-505, amending Appendix C, fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances to add rental fee and remove deposit fee of the James Vera baseball field and soccer fields. Stop 103, or 1 through 3. So we've got the ordinance amending of well, go ahead. I'm sitting here reading all this stuff.
Okay, well, good evening, Council and Mayor. Part of my job is to make sure that we are charging what we need to charge and covering what we need to cover. And it was brought to my attention recently that the baseball field that we have over there, we charge, up to now we've just been collecting a deposit of $100, and then that can be returned. A deposit of $100 really is pointless, because if there's any damage to a field, what are you going to fix with $100? But we aren't charging anything at all, and there's a pretty good demand for our field. They're not all Richwood teams, so they're coming here because we're free. And so I met with Eric. I've talked with Laura, who deals with it the most up in the front office. We talked to Clint, and we've come up with what we feel is a fair thing. Right now, the fields cost us money. We mow, we fix electrical, we have electrical bills for when they use the lights, if the fence is damaged. So we have expense. Last year, I believe, just the dirt to bring into the field was, what, $3,500 or something like that. And so right now, it's being used by non-residents at the expense of our residents. So I want to try to alleviate that. This isn't probably going to bring it to a profit. Obviously, we don't want it to be a profit. Well, we aren't aiming for that, but we would like to defray some of the costs. So what we are proposing right now, the way it works, they call in and get their field for a quarter, January through March. Then before March is over, they can call in and get it for the next quarter. We are proposing that we go to a half-year rental. That way the teams don't risk losing their practice field in the middle of their season. And we've taken away the deposit, and we're proposing that we charge $300 for the use for 6 months. So it's only $50 a month. What is up on the screen right now, we had Laura call some of our surrounding towns to find out what they do. And there's no two alike. So there is no kind of standard set. Everybody's facilities are different. Everybody manages them different. Some of them, at first glance, look like they're cheaper, but if you multiply that by the number of days, we're still quite a bit cheaper. For example, $15 a day rental for Lake Jackson. You multiply that times the 2 times allowed per week, times 6 months, they're paying more. Hmm?
$6.25 a day is what we're proposing.
So we limit it to 2 times a week. They can book it, they'll get first come, first serve. But a priority is given to any teams that have any member that's a Richwood. We don't have any all Richwood teams, so we can't say it has to be a Richwood team. But if there's a member, whether it be coaching or a player that's a Richwood, they'll get priority over a team that is totally another team. Any questions for me?
The only one I had is, cutting the deposit, do we feel like that'll hurt anything? Like, say someone comes in and tears something up, is it
Like I said,
helpful to just
$100 isn't
keep
going.
them from tearing it up in the future, like a deterrent, or not?
What we've put into the agreement, which is attached to your packet, that if they do damage or if they do any modifications to the field that are not authorized. For example, we learned that one team had built up the mound nicely. Another team didn't like it, so they took it out without authorization. So any modifications without authority from him or any damage, they would lose the privileges.
Okay.
So, there is ramification. It's just to collect $100. What, to me, that's almost like, who cares if we damage it because it's only $100. So, 'cause that wouldn't even plant grass seed.
I was just curious to see, on some of the cities it says the fields are maintained by the league, and what that entails of maintaining. Is it $3,500 of dirt, or does it grass
we
or
actually-
sodding, and probably.
Yeah, we actually have
help
a
with
league
that.
and he can talk to it, that
Yeah.
does a lot of our maintenance. Like I said, we bring in the dirt, but we don't spread it. We don't.
And the only reason I bring that up is could we maybe tell the league to say, hey, would you like this as another venue, maintain it, and have a lower cost?
Right now, I think that would almost add more
It
conflict.
would, we'd have to have bathrooms, they want concessions,
Oh,
they
yeah.
want.
Or somebody would do
Clean
one
up.
thing to it and
Yeah.
just maintain it, and then
Stuff
another
will
would
stay
come
in,
in.
sorry.
Yes,
Just
we have
to
public works,
maintain
maintain
it.
trash.
So I think right now, going as far as how the maintenance is done is working, it's just the cost.
Our resident groundskeeper.
Yeah, this is our league.
Yeah,
Speak-
this is the league
Speaking
president.
of the
You would
maintenance,
know.
man,
Richwood League president.
So yeah, like she said, so one of my teams is the ones that, we've worked with Cliff the last couple of years, done a lot of improvements on the field. And the field used to not be used that much, but now, it's every night of the week that field's being used. And so, Eric and Trish reached out to me, I agreed. It's hard for somebody to call up in the city and complain about the shape of the field when they're not paying anything for it. So on the flip side, if you start charging, you gotta be expecting those calls. But, so also, as far as like the Lake Jackson Little League, so I'm the president of Little League there. So we cover Clute, Richwood, and Lake Jackson. Lake Jackson has 3 complexes, the original Little League field, and the Pee Wee field, and then this last year we just took over the Babe Ruth field, which is over here off of Old England Road. So during the season, which is pretty much year round, fall and spring, those fields are designated strictly for the league. They don't rent them out. You can't get them. There's two fields that they rent out. One is the old Bartek field, which is behind the subs off of Old England Road, that is used by Reservoir Christian School for their use. And then there's one other field over by the Pee Wee fields that they use, but it's not really maintained. So, but the city owns all those; they maintain them. As far as like giving us some money to maintain them, but a lot of the work is done by us. And it's that gray area. Depends on what it is, facility wise or whatever. But no, I think it's a good idea to start charging something in the $300 per season. Like you'll break it down to $6.25 a practice. It's definitely not a profit for the city, but it's going to help cover some of the costs. Just to turn on the lights, I'm sure is a couple $100 per night with the way those old lights are. They're constantly going out, and Cliff and his crew is always having to go fix them. The only thing I would recommend is potentially leaving a $100 deposit and maybe putting a lock box on the lights, because I know that timer you have issues with and has to be replaced all the time. It's supposed to be 2 hours, but I think it goes off about every 30 minutes now. We typically set a timer to reset it every 30 minutes, or it shuts off when you take 20 minutes to come back on. So that may be the only thing I'd say, and that's one of the things that the city of Lake Jackson does as well during off season. They lock all the lights up, and you gotta have a key when you go and do your rental agreement. So maybe something similar to that. Give out 2 keys per team, and then just hold $100 deposit to get your keys back. Just a thought. But other than that, no, I mean, like I said, I mean, if there's things that you need help on, we'll continue to help you maintain it or give recommendations. As you know, a lot of that equipment over there, we kind of provided and had donated, but a lot of it's been stolen and torn up. So that's the other thing that you gotta watch out for. I guess the last thing was, I don't know if we all consider like a daily rate, because I know there's some coaches or managers not from this area that do hold camps over there and they charge it and make profits. So I don't know if you have thought about doing some sort of daily rate for that, just to kind of recoup some of the costs that they're using to make money.
We had actually been contacted by a coach that wanted to do a camp this week over spring break, and we said no. And the main problem, we require insurance coverage, and the leagues have that through the league. But if somebody personally is running a camp, they may not have the insurance, and then that puts the city at a big liability if we've allowed them to use it. So that's why at this time we said no to this guy, that we weren't going to. Now with renting a field, I mean, anybody can go use these fields at any time that they're not taken. By reserving a field or renting a field, all you're doing is getting the right to tell other people they can't be on it because you've paid for it and you've reserved it. So we're not stopping him from doing the camp if he wants to take that chance that there's, nobody on the field. But we just didn't feel that we should take on that liability.
What's the liability called when you rent the field?
They can provide us with insurance.
They furnish proof of insurance.
With each roster child. So part of the insurance is you have to put them on the roster on the insurance.
And we get a copy of that on the application.
So each team, whether you play Little League or select, you're required to have insurance for all the tournaments and stuff, so they should be able to provide that.
So it's just required, but somebody personally running.
Right.
We didn't feel like that we should rent it.
Just offhand, with this vast difference in the city, what do you think would be a fair daily rate for our field? Say you wanted to host an event.
I mean, typically those camps run anywhere from $35 per player up to $150 per player.
You charge $100 per day already, it should be easily paid.
Yeah. I mean, I would kind of treat it like you would the park rental, $150 a day. Even though that coach isn't, I mean, they should still have the insurance because of their team.
Yeah.
But I don't know, that would be something.
It's just kind of like with the park, like even if we allow you to have a bounce house at the park, we require insurance for that bounce house. Anything that we know runs a risk of injury, I would feel like that director, whoever's running that camp, needs to provide some sort of personal liability on whatever he's running.
And again, I think that obviously the idea is not to make money, but it's to help recoup some of the costs. Dirt's expensive because it's special dirt. Trying to maintain it and mow it. The bases, the net, all that stuff costs money. And the lights are a big thing. Obviously, we're daylight savings time now, so the lights will be limited. But throughout the year, it's the older stuff.
Part of my job is to kind of close up those little holes of leakage where money goes out, but there's nothing to cover. I mean, obviously, there's things in running a city that we aren't going to cover, obviously, but things like this, if it's not a direct benefit just to our residents, we really need to try to figure out a way to recoup at least some of our expenses.
So I didn't plan on making a comment on this, but it's really interesting to me because I grew up in Pearland. Old Pearland, just to clarify, not new Pearland. I don't even recognize that place. It reminds me a lot of today Richwood, but baseball made Pearland. A lot of people don't know this. It was a Pearland Dad's Club that made Pearland. And who likes Gringos? Anybody ever been to Gringos? Gringos is an amazing Mexican food restaurant. And the Dad's Club, made Gringos. Because everybody after baseball practice or baseball games, they went to Gringos and had margaritas. So we need to be real careful about how this is going to affect the businesses that might be benefiting from this attraction in our city. So you might want to consider a minor investment into could equal more revenue for the city and the people that live here. So I personally like the idea of having a nice baseball field. I think as far as the deposit goes, I don't know if you can get a credit card or something. If you tear down a fence, we get your credit card, but not just $100. It's just you put some sort of assurance that if they mess something up, that they're going to pay for it. That might be a simpler way to handle it.
So if this gets approved tonight, it's coming up this week that we're going to be taking, because the teams that have the fields now have them through the end of March. So we need to have an answer, or it will be in the next quarter, or the next half. But what we've talked about doing is, if it's approved tonight, all the people that had the field for the first quarter, we will contact this week and give them first right of refusal, just because if it had been in practice, they would have got the whole half a year. And if they aren't, and they will be charged half, so it would be 150 based on what I'm proposing here. If they don't want to do that, then
Seasons. We got 300 per season, so that
it's January through June and July through.
So they would get 3 more months.
So
if you did it all year, $600, right?
Right. Okay. Yes, so it's for 6 months, but because we would decide this midstream, we will give those teams that are using it now first right to it. If they don't want to pay that fee, there are other teams that will take their spot. We're not trying to hurt anybody, but we're trying to, number one, give priority to Richwood teams, and number two, try to recoup some costs.
Lauren.
I just wanted to say that I think it is a better idea to keep that deposit, because I've been involved in some city park cleanups, and I know that $100 may not repair damage, but if someone goes out and trashes the place and we have to pay our city workers to go out there and clean it up, we can charge that deposit and at least recoup some of that. And I know that the teams that we have right now are awesome, but if we're going to start renting it out, we don't know who's going to rent it, So it's good to have that deposit.
Just buy toilet paper for the park restrooms.
Yeah. And I don't care. I don't care. I think the threat that they wouldn't have the field the next time is going to be more of a deterrent.
That park is one of the few issues that actually is in my backyard.
Yeah.
So I do like to make sure that stays tidy.
I think the only thing would be hard is you'd have to have some sort of inspection process, because it's used every night. So and typically it's not till I call Cliff, hey man, who tore the mound out, or hey, this is torn up, who did that. So I think that would be the hard part, is try to figure out some sort of inspection, whether it's morning, Cliff's guys do a quick glint. I don't know.
I mean, we don't want to add more work to the public works, but if we can do a lockbox, I could see doing it with the keys. But just as it sits now, I mean, I think we've had some of those $100 for years, because it's the same teams, and they paid $100 once, and but like you said, there's no way really to know who damaged anything unless they come and say, hey, guess what? We just drove through your fence.
How many teams do we have using it right now?
I can look.
Around.
It's full. Every night's full.
They get it 2 nights a week, and it's full. And we
They're
turn
paying
some away.
If they're paying each $300, that's pretty good. Is there any way we can earmark that and use it in the Parks Department budget for, let's say, fencing in the future, just for that baseball field? That'd be a pretty good idea. I think that baseball field look really nice.
So I also make a slight suggestion on slightly changing what you mentioned about those that are already signed up or made deposits, as opposed to giving them first refusal. could we actually consider grandfathering anybody that's already signed up or paid a fee? I mean, that they do not have to pay the new fee?
They haven't paid a fee.
I was gonna mention that same thing, just because they've already paid their dues for the year, right? Don't you pay up front for
They
the
just paid
the
a $100
semester?
deposit that we hold on
No,
to.
I mean like Little League. Don't they pay up front, like a registration fee or whatever, or do you pay monthly? Do your kids pay monthly, or do they pay up front for the whole, like, season?
Each team's different.
Depends on what
Oh,
kind of
okay.
team they're on.
Yeah.
Well,
So we would
I
apply
wasn't
their
sure because
$100.
I don't wanna, if they just pay up front, say they paid $100, well, now the coach has to come up with this money, to cover the difference,
We're not
or,
gonna hurt a team
What
with
I'm
this.
getting at is that most of them are probably like most, they kind of budgeted their money and stuff. at
Well,
the
that's what
beginning of the year. But now they're asking them in order to keep field, and I don't know, or they pay in the original deposit. Now they're being told what they had already planned for. And some of these little league teams, I mean, they are on a very tight budget. Just a couple of $100 extra dollars.
None of the teams that
Not
are on our
paying
field
for
are
it
Little
like
League
the one
teams.
that's-
They're not Little League teams that are using our fields. Little League puts them on fields for practice.
Well, but-
So the teams that are using our fields are select teams.
And they,
It's pay to
It's a
play.
lot of money.
okay.
So, yeah, they're,
Yeah,
and
they're
if
good
we
teams.
don't keep a deposit,
but yes, we
that
have,
$100 will get applied to that 150.
Monday through
They'll
Friday
only have to
booked.
come up with $50 for the second quarter.
So I guess the only question I have, do y'all have plans to do, like, now that you're gonna start charging, you have any plans to like do some stuff to the fields? 'Cause the only thing I would think is maybe say, okay, well, we're warning you, we're gonna let you know now, starting the new season, we're gonna start charging, and maybe between now and that start date in 3 more months, maybe get some of those things fixed, maybe do some of those upgrades or whatever you wanna do, and just say,
There is no upgrade.
yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
volunteer for parks and recreation?
So to answer that question,
we've been taking care of it.
shortly is no. That any money coming in, I'm in between $10,000 and $20,000 in just electrical alone in the past 3 years. Any money coming in is gonna compensate for the maintenance that's already going on, as far as I can tell. If we one day can see getting ahead, I'd love to make those funds applicable to the ball field or something else.
But right now, we're not gonna cover expenses.
Yeah.
We're gonna help defray some of the expenses so that because otherwise Cliff's gonna say, let's just
get rid of it.
get rid of it and let me have
But
this.
right now, the money that was deferred for the repairs that Cliff has made came out of some other city service. So that's how tight no budget is. So it really will help us better to maintain it, but as far as getting ahead, I equate it to the water situation. We build a new water plant and we're back to par. We're not above par, we're at par. So this is kind of where we're at with that, but it will help definitely get repairs made quicker because there will be residual building up, but right now it's a zero balance.
Yeah, I don't think it's impossible.
Yes.
And
I just
just-
think there's other options, like
Yeah.
maybe charging for concessions. Have you seen these new pizza things going up that they park for snow cones? They're kind of like snow cones, but they do pizzas. That would be. I
Well,
mean,
this
if
is
you're
just
saying
strictly
all
practice.
these people come here.
Yeah, these
they're
aren't
eating,
games.
they're doing stuff. You might be pay for someone to put a concession booth or something in the parking lot.
So this, I would say this is the first step.
We don't want to detract
Yeah. I would-
something where we have people coming into the small town of Richwood where it's already a struggle. We don't want to detract that. We want to bring them here. But I can see the fact of the revenue, and it just doesn't seem like we're looking at all the options. The option right now is charge more money
They're saying
or
that it's not revenue, it's just keeping up with the field.
just keeping up with it. Yeah, and concessions can do that.
Concessions is a great idea to take to the Parks Committee.
Well, and.
But we don't
we're
host
not
games.
talking
We're just
games,
having
we're
practice in the
talking
evening.
This is
practices.
just
There's no
practice.
games from Little League
It's
being
one-
held at
one
this
team.
field.
And we don't have restroom facilities near the field, we don't have, we really don't have any facility other than the field and the lights. So right now, I would say this is step one. I would love in the future
Sure.
for us to have a nice ball diamond that could host games or whatever. But this is step one. It's either get rid of the field or start trying to recoup some
Well,
of the
and that
expenses.
parking lot is so small that even You know, that parking lot is not big enough to host much at this point,
Well, then
else
it's
you're
not
in
regulation
someo's,
size either
huh?
for-
Yeah, it's not
I
a,
mean, it's.
the
it's
teams that
really not
practice on
much
it are
more
probably
than a
too big to be
practice.
on it.
Oh, no, I just meant for games and for, like, if we wanted to ever do something like
Yeah.
that, we'd have to really do some adjustments, because I don't think you could even have one of those trucks come in there and park and
I
then
mean,
have
it's a
room for
few
people to.
This is just
park
step
also.
one, trying to slow down a leak.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember that part of the building back in the day of the Stratton Ridge Complex was based on some donations and also some state grants. Maybe there's something out there grant-wise that we could look up. I'll start looking more and
That's a
see
great
what I
idea.
can find on it. I would probably figure Lake Jackson built all of those fields over there as well with grants. So, yeah, I'm like Cliff. I've coached Little League and softball for many years, and the fathers and the teams and the boards are the guys that's out there cleaning the fields up and everything, making sure that they're ready to go. And it's even worse nowadays. Clute used to help us a lot, but I've watched my son's daughters in softball, and they don't get very much help from the cities anymore. So it's a.
You know, we're not prepared to do a long-range development plan for the ball field. Right now, we just need to stop the leak a little bit.
Yeah, I'm just looking at maybe some
But
grants to
but it
fix
doesn't
it.
mean we can't look at other revenue sources going down or improving the field. But right now, we just need to take what we have and try to.
But we definitely, you know, that's one of the reasons that there was back when I was growing up, we didn't have that much activity, but the Clute had their softball and Little League, and they were people just running, hitting, you know. Clute went to the World Series once, and then, like I was saying earlier, we did actually have games out there with the Pee Wee leagues from Clute, but again, Clute's over in Lake Jackson now, and the layout of the Forest building has changed. So
Last year, we had a team from Sargent come thank us for letting us use the field. They came a long way to use our field because it was free.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, you've got some kids. My granddaughter's playing in Sweeney because issues that it's just.
So there is plenty of demand. The field will not go unfilled. It'll just help pick itself.
But yeah, if we need, there, like I said, we could look at some development or at least ways some grants to maybe help not develop it, but maybe get it into a little bit better shape.
I would say, we can do a lockbox if you guys want us to do that and keep the $100 deposit. And we can wait until after this quarter. I just need to be able to know how to act this week or the second quarter. And I would suggest that they pay for half of the 6-month rent.
Yeah, I don't see the half, the prorated amount. I don't see would be an issue, especially with these teams.
So does this go into the general fund or to the parks fund?
It's all the same, but I can keep track of how much comes in.
Beautification
It's general
separate.
fund.
Okay.
Like KRB, you mean?
No, the park.
Parks.
Yeah.
I mean, parks is part of the general fund.
Parks and Recreation.
It's not.
I will make a new GL just for
Tracking.
sports field rental revenue,
Okay.
so we can
Okay.
keep track if we need to know how much we've taken in.
Yeah.
But it will be
That'd
part
be-
of
yeah.
that.
That way we can
general
kind of
fund.
track
If
how
we
much
put
we're
it
helping
anywhere-
offset the expense.
If we put it anywhere specific, it becomes restricted, and we can only spend it on those things. I can do that. I can make it restricted, but right now, we're really just reimbursing the general fund for what it's costing us.
Yeah.
And last year, we were paying about 5 cents a kilowatt hour for that electricity for those lights, and now we're paying 10 something.
Yeah.
So just the electric's doubled.
Yeah.
We're not gonna even come close to breaking even with this.
I would just make the suggestion that making sure that, that is used for the expenses of the park, of the ball field.
But did you say we can put LED lights and?
Getting there might be a little tough, but there will be savings.
Put a press box in.
Well, I tell you what, the acoustics in here are amazing.
Okay, any other discussion?
I guess the one other one I had was council, do we feel like it should start now? I mean, do we feel like it should start now? Do we feel like it should start at the July timeframe? Like what, before anybody makes a motion, like what are?
So one thing I would like to say to that
yeah.
is, once it opens, anybody can call, and whoever calls first gets the field.
Mm-hmm.
So if Team A already has the field, and Team B calls before they do, they will then get it if we don't put this into effect now and call, give them the first right. That means halfway through their season, they've lost their field.
Okay.
So that's one of the concerns as well. And that was one of the reasons to go to a half year instead of a quarter, because they ran that risk of not being the first one in. So that's why I said this time only, it won't be every time, but this time only, we would give them first right.
Right, okay.
And the prorated amount.
Yes.
They would pay a half.
All right. Any other questions, or do we have any motions?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to do. Just making sure that we make a separate GL so we can keep track of.
I'd already planned to do that.
Okay, perfect.
And I've amended this, it sounds like we want to keep the deposit. So I've amended, I removed language that says we're removing the deposit, and I removed the strike through from the deposit. So this will be the addition when presented for codification.
And we'll have Cliff put a lockbox on, and the deposit will be returned with keys.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 23-505, amending Appendix C fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances to add rental fee for the James Vera baseball field and soccer field, stop 103. I think I got it right.
Yes.
Yes.
Good job.
Good job.
All right, we have a motion made by Councilmember Fountain. Second?
I'll second.
Have a second made by Councilmember Strong. Councilmember Strong, how do you vote, ma'am?
Aye.
Councilmember Escalante, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Councilmember Fountain, how do you vote, sir?
Aye.
Okay, let the record reflect that the motion carries. Okay, consider items removed from consent agenda. I believe we got everything, so let's move on to capital improvements. Clifton?
Good evening. Start with streets this evening. A lot of it's been included in the weekly updates, but Missouri County is still scheduled to start in June back in Oakwood Shores. We have issued a PO to Limeco already for this upcoming work. Limeco is running behind by 30 days or more on their deliveries of lime. The general foreman was forward thinking enough to ask us to get the PO in that if he had to start making orders for lime in May for their work to be done in June, he could do so. So we went ahead and took that step. Also on the streets, 1 year walkthrough on the streets project, the streets and sidewalks project being Moore and Bush Creek Drive and those streets. That happens tomorrow. It's already been a year. We had a year warranty, so we're going to do a final walkthrough on that. As far as we can see, everything is holding well and doing good. North Water Plant, remaining switchgear should be here at the end of April. Generator might be a little bit later, as far as I know, that we're still on track for completion in August, and that's where we stand as of now. The drainage, that council approved the additional drainage work. Matula started started today on North Mahan. Immediately we ran into a natural gas main conflict. As of right now, we're optimistic that we think we can relocate it enough to be able to do what we need to do at minimal cost, and we have some contingency in there. I'm not too concerned about it as of now. As far as sidewalks go, construction contracts have been signed. Attorney Trish, Eric, they've been sent back to Strand Associates. HTI Construction should mobilize this week. Jared Engelkey with Strand will be down tomorrow for the walkthrough and will hand me off the contractor's copies. I can just hand it to them when they show up, when they mobilize, and they can get going. I wanted to bring up the elevated towers. It's not an ongoing capital improvement project. I want to, council, we've discussed it. Jeremy, you might not have been here for these discussions, but future elevated capacity is going to be a requirement. Once we develop out the Oakwood Shore subdivision, we'll be outside of compliance. So we're going to need to do it before that. The first study that Strand did, you guys were here, were done from a compliance perspective. We did not see the results that we wanted to see to kind of spread that, with the hydraulic modeling, excuse me, to spread that pressure influence evenly over the city. Strand is actually committed to run additional hydraulic modeling to see what 2 towers in different locations would do, or what kind of impact that would do, and they're doing this free of charge. It's very nice of them. It's basically doing a whole other study, not just for compliance, but to see what would actually function best in the city. So we didn't task them with that originally because we were somewhat confident that with options of raising the elevated towers to increase the static pressure would solve some of these issues, and the hydraulic modeling just didn't say it would. So we're going to have to maybe investigate other alternatives to get the best possible pressure distribution we can get. So other than that, that's about all I have.
Okay. Any questions?
That drainage project on North Main, that's right there by the crossing where the school is, right? Where they started?
Yes, sir. Right there where it turns to Audubon Woods.
Are they going to be able to finish that this week, or what's the deal with school?
I don't know. We're already back a day because of the gas line issue. They told me when they started they thought soonest was going to be the 20th, latest was probably going to be the 24th. We still have confidence in that timeline. But it could be, we could be getting it the first week of school. Chief Mayor's going to help me out with that. Yeah, Chief helped with an alternative traffic control plan, and has talked to Amanda Bundick with the school, and they're going to hopefully fix that, have that all fixed up.
Okay. All right. If there's no questions, we'll move on to the city manager's report.
Mayor, Council, pretty much everything's the same as what went out Friday, except completed my ethics training last week, and I added the fatality accident from this weekend from the significant event notice. Other than that, everything's the same.
Okay. Council members, do you have any comments or reports or? All right.
Really pretty good.
All right. Well, moving on to the mayor's report. A couple of things. Number one, we've been notified by the TCQ that there will be a hearing on the Bastrop Bio issue with Undine's permit. So I've been kind of in the reading mode and restudy mode of that. I'm going to try to work with the DA's office. They're going to be handling the case from the legal side when they go up to Austin. So I'm hoping, with all hope, that they do what they do. We're able to stop the permit, but the verbiage in the letters have not been that positive in the people's, or in our direction. But we're going to still continue to go and fight against it. So wanted to let you know that. Secondly,
Steve,
yes,
have y'all issued a resolution against it as a city?
yes, we
and
did.
Are you going to Austin as a representative
Oh.
of the city to that meeting?
Yeah,
It's possible it may be a hybrid meeting
Yeah.
where they'll do here and there.
Zoom? I got the letter, I just wasn't sure if Richwood was actually gonna have like a
I have not gotten the notice
on behalf of the city.
of their decision to make it one way or the
Right.
other. Last I got it was they're pushing for a hybrid meeting
Right.
because so many people are here.
Thank you.
You
Thank you
bet.
for updating on that.
You bet.
okay. Okay, lastly, I've been listed to the news, watching different outages or outlets, trying to get a good feel of what's going to be going on. But looking at the days ahead for us and for the citizens, I'm hearing rumblings that there may be, when this new federal budget comes out, there may be removal of the ARPA funds, or, well, that's what they said, removal of the ARPA funds, which we've been working on to get our upgrades and everything from the, that was passed, I guess, when the president came into office. So, hopefully, before their budget gets put in, hopefully we can get the things that we need. But again, we're kind of stuck as far as the funding, or as far as the equipment coming in. But we're still going to do everything we can to make sure that we do get the upgrades and the contingencies that we've been working on. Also, looking ahead to, as we were talking about last time, the next couple of years, maybe we may not be seeing the good money conditions that we've had the last couple of years because of the economy, and it doesn't look like it's going to get that much better anytime soon. So let's all keep it in our heads to, especially our personal sides. Let's try to make sure that we stay within what we can and within our means, and the city side stay within our means, because it's a good possibility that it's going to be pretty stark the next couple of years too for individuals. I hope they come up with something better, but right now we're at the mercy of the federal government. So at least ways at the city level, municipal level, we can do our best to not let that affect us as much as it could have. So, and there was one other thing, but I've totally forgotten it. But I didn't forget Jeremy's last name. That's it. Okay, future agenda items.
We'll bring back the planning and zoning discussion.
Right.
That's 23, 504, 15, and 17.
17, yeah. For
Like what?
15 and 17 or
27 and 28.
27,
On the agenda?
28.
Or you mean like the item?
Chapter item.
Yes,
The chapter
27 and 28.
27, 28. Yeah,
Yeah, they'll be
here
there.
it is.
And we'll probably have an item for, speaking of that, set a date for budget workshop.
Okay. All righty. All right, well, is there any other future agenda items?
I will have, solid waste is out for bid currently. The bid closes on the 31st, so we will present trash bids in April.
Okay. Any good trash to buy? Oh, okay. All right. Anything else? We are adjourned at 7:09, even though the clock says 6:09.